Python in this beginner course. The thing is, there are some very amazing sites to open Python. First, you can just install Python, which is a method, but I like to use either Visual Studio Code, which you can't really see because it's my drop-down bar, or Replit. Now, I could be using Visual Studio Code, and that is sincerely better, but the thing is, you won't be able to see the full code since my screen share is limited. So now, let's begin our dive into Python. So you're gonna have to wait. Now you have to make an account on Replit if you don't already have. To make a new file, as you saw, you just have to put in a new file. And it takes quite some time. It doesn't actually take this long, but since I'm screen sharing, it takes some time. So let's dive immediately in. Python is a text-based language. So if you had previous coding experiences such as what I recommend code.org, or the most popular Scratch. But I like code.org not because that it's less not because that I learned from it, because that it's actually kind of interesting because you can understand Python, and you can also code JavaScript. The reason I'm going back to this is because I don't want to do block. It's like a transversal. You can understand all this stuff. Now, right now, you probably don't understand all this stuff. But if you have been doing code.org, all this stuff has been probably used to you. And then you can just go, and then you can view it all in text. This is why I like code.org, so you can practically also go to JavaScript. But this is for later. Then you learn the basics. So let's go right into text-based by starting our first ever program. Print hello Python. You can put anything in these quotes. If you want to say something, put anything. You can even just print numbers by itself, which you'll understand later how it works. But you cannot do this. But you'll understand. These keywords are kind of confusing, so whenever you get an error like this, just try to look at it and see what's wrong. Because this is the file, okay? In module. Every file is like a module, which contains a bunch of functions. A function is basically something you use to do a task in coding languages. And modules contain bunches of functions. But we don't have a function right now. Print function, it is a function, but it's a built-in function to the Python compiler. This is called the console compiler, which runs your program. And the shell is like a terminal. You can do stuff like, it's like a terminal. Basically, this is just there. And if you do this, now let me show you something which might look a bit complicated. If there's nothing inside it, this is null. What if there's nothing inside the print statement? It's of type null. And what you see on the side is a comment. Don't worry, if we're going too fast. Don't worry, I'm going to show you next, because we're going to cover all this stuff later. If we were to print nothing, you get nothing. Now let's go into some keywords in the print statement already. One of the most important keywords, in my opinion, which I'm not even going to be using the other keywords that much, but some of the most important, and by the way, I'm going to be writing a comment. It's something which you do to help write your program. This is a multi-line comment, which is used for doing comments which are multi-lined. You can put the comments literally anywhere you want on the side of functions, even in if statements, which you'll see later. So, okay, in the comment with 3 quotes, okay, the first keyword I want to talk about is N. It creates a new line. This is the most important in my opinion, as it gives you a new line. This is a new tab, so I assume that for a paragraph you'd probably leave. I usually don't use these that much. Then we do a single quote. Why do we? This is for giving a new quote. Why do we put this? Because if we were to put any quote, you have to put if you want to print anything you have to put a quote. I use double quote with single quotes also work. But if you want to print a single quote, the compiler will get mixed up. See, they think there's double quotes already, and it mixes up. Which is why instead you can do this. In fact, you can just do this yourself. This won't change anything. It knows that you mean the single quotes. But if you want to put this, you'll have to put this over here. Same for the double quote. Oh, sorry, I think I put the wrong bracket. Wait, actually, I think I put the wrong brackets. It's this bracket. See, this backslash is called an escape character. And it can escape rules. This of course is for new double quote. And now I want to tell you something else. There can actually be 3 types of quotes. We've seen the single quote, the double quote, but now there's a triple quote, which is just 3 single quotes. And you can do multi-line comments. You don't have to put N/N. But the thing is, I don't like using this. This is the exact same syntax as the multi-line comment I put over here. So it doesn't work as well, so I don't suggest you use this method. And instead, you could just do this. As this, things get a bit messy. Now let's move on to the next concept called data types. Data is what you store. It's the information you store. And data type is the type of the data. All these quotes were there for reasons, because it's called data types. This is of type string. It's a string of characters. You can put anything you want in here. And it'll print it. Unless of course you have these things, but what about the other data types? These strings are very powerful, but what about if you just want to print a number and not case it by a string? You don't need quotes for numbers. This is called an integer. An integer is the same as an integer. It's a number, a whole number, which is not negative, 0, or positive. A float, it's another type of number. It's a number which can go with decimal points. Now the limits for the integer in the compiler are quite big. And we can also even use exponential notation. This is the same as 35 times 10 to the 23rd. Which they wrote in a different way. Now, I'm going to show you something which again is a bit high level. Again, Python works with exponential notation, and even if you have this kind of number, just keep on spamming the 0. It probably will print the same thing, but sometimes when it goes a bit big, they go into exponential notation. They could hold about 300 of these zeros. And again, remember, floats are numbers with decimal points. You can do this. Now we're done with that. The float data type, we get into more things. Boolean. Boolean is also another data type. It's a data type where you have when you have values true, false. This is one of the only strings of characters which you can print without. This is one actually they actually need it, but you can print true either by, of course, encasing it in a string, or if you want to do a type of Boolean, we get, let's do a statement which is true. 5 equals to 3 plus 2. Again, you will understand this, why I put 2 equals. Five is less than or equal to 3 plus 2. That is true. So print true. This true is not a string. This is a Boolean. A Boolean is true or false. And it's quite used, and you use these kind of conditions in if statements, which we will learn about. And after we cover these data types, we go into variables, which I've been showing you quite a lot. A variable is something to store data, which can be changed unless you set it to not be changed. But it stores data. I can change data types by using this toString method. Actually, it's not the toString, but you can change the data types using casting. This is the most simplest method. can use a type function to see what data type. Now stir stands for string. Over here, this means string. In fact, some stuff stands for other stuff. Bool stands for boolean. Int stands for int. And float is the same. Now we unscatter the service. Now, we're going to talk about operators. In Python, operators are kind of the same. Well, mathematical operators right now. We're going to go into different operators later. But operators are kind of the same. There is plus, there is minus. Wait for the operators. Let's make a bunch of operators. Plus means plus, minus means minus. No, actually, this is minus. Times means times to multiply. Divide means divide. But now we find more keywords. It means find the quotient division. And the percent does not mean any percent. It means to find the modulus. Or for people who do not know what mods are, the remainder division. Now we have some assignment operators. Plus equals to, well, 14, well, let's use an example. 14 plus equals to 2. No, x, this is a variable, but we have to use it for this example. X plus equals to 2. This increases the value of x 2 times. This is a data container, which we will use quite a lot. And it's also minus equals to 2, times equals to 2, divide equals to 2. And I'm not sure about these ones, but these might also exist. This equals to 2. This is possible. But these are the basic arithmetic operators. And with our knowledge on that, let's begin variable. Variable state, store data. You can store any other data types. X equals to true. This is a boolean. X, now let's set x equal to a float. Okay. Integer. Set to string with the quotes. Remember, strings must have quotes. And now we can do that. Now let's talk about one operator we can use with string. It's a plus and plus equals. Yes, we can do addition with strings. Say we have these two variables, x and y, which are both strings. They store different data though. What happens if we were to add them? X plus y. Z. No, we can't do that. We have to do z equals to x plus y, a new variable z, and now we can print z. We run it. We get hijack. This is what happens when we add strings. We combine them together. It's quite useful when you're... And we can, in the print statement, we can also get a number with a variable. Say hi there. Now we can use a comma to separate it. We can write a different data type. And then a different one. Say... And we can print this. And we can also do something else. This might also be high level, but just bear with me. We'll learn about this left. Again, these are not my real name. We take an input and then we concatenate. We can add a variable as well. And this variable is basically the value of inputting, which you will see. This is kind of concatenation. Yes, we can assign variables to statements. In fact, this is another high level. But say we had this simple function which does a task, and this task is specifically adding numbers according to its name. And we can assign this variable the value of the task. And we can assign random numbers, or even better, we can ask the user this is already getting to a basic program, and don't worry, we will understand all this. The only reason I made a function is to show you that you can also take values from functions. Those specific functions only, like functions which return values, not like print functions which actually print into the console. This is a basic thing. And we don't have to make this function and this complicated stuff, but just for the sake of what I want to show you, we're going to use this only. But we'll always try to, and always try to keep spaces. when you're inputting, but again, inputting is for later, so we probably already understood it, but oh yes, no, you have to print this as well. And see, I can't wait. We can do that. What? How is this possible? I just realized something. I wonder what happens when you print X. I want to see how this is making sense. What? Guys, I have just seen something. I thought that you cannot assign print, but it does work. But the thing is, what the hell happens when you do this? X. This is literally none. It says none. It's Boolean. Some type of Boolean. I have no idea. Is this null or something? Null is a different type of data type, which means nothing. So this is interesting. Again, don't have to understand this def. By input, now you should try to understand input something. You ask the user, and you use most of the hundreds, like 99% of the time, you assign this to a variable so you can store the data of input and use it to manipulate it. Variables or to store data, and this is the data. But don't ask me what this does. It's kind of confusing, so just don't try to use it since it makes no sense. Now, this is just lesson 1. We have seen the basics. Now we will go understand if statements, def, more operators, and much more. And even while loops and stuff, of course.